Good morning, everyone. Pulse, and I'm here with our second episode of My Favorite Deck, featuring Die by the Dice, their deck, Baron von Count. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself to start things off?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks. My name's John. I started playing Magic around Portal, so like 97 or so. And basically, I saw an ad on TV with monsters and cards, and I'm like, hey, I like all those things. And been playing kind of off and on ever since. Dropped out. Most Magic players will, if you play for long enough, will quit and come back. That's what they say. Mark Rosewater says it all the time in his podcast, and I'm living proof. And I've kind of been in the on section since Dragons of Tarkir, more or less. Pandemic definitely kind of put a hit on store play, obviously for everybody, but Arena kept me in the game. Um, Kind of my biggest Magic claim to fame is I once hit Mythic number one with Unconstructed the ladder with a green red dinosaurs deck.
Nice.
Um, yeah, it was I had it done on stream and it was pretty cool. I had to be very quiet because my wife was sleeping in the next room over, but it was quite the feat for me. I mostly play draft, get commander games in. I used to have a weekly commander group pre-pandemic, but unfortunately, that has sort of fallen by the wayside a little bit. We still get together sometimes. Me and the crew, we've all had kids since then. So, in fact, this afternoon we're having a little play date, but less cards, more making sure kids don't fall down slides and stuff. And then Gladiator is a really sweet format on Arena. That's kind of where I've been getting a lot of my constructed kicks in. Like 100 card competitive. It's pretty sweet. They've got a whole Discord and a whole community fan format. Very cool stuff. But yeah, that's kind of me and my Magic history. Otherwise, I like games of all various stripes: video, board, tabletop. Uh, and I got a single kiddo who's about a year and a half, and she's quite the handful.
That was what I've been hearing. Not my path so far. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Your commander here is Baron von Count from the Unset, like unstable.
Yeah, that's right.
Unstable. Okay, so enters with a doom counter on 5, and then every time you cast a spell that has the indicated numeral, you drop the counter by 1, and when it hits 0, you kill somebody.
Exactly. So you get this countdown clock coming. Otherwise, he's a vanilla 3/3 for one black red, very fragile. Um, but just the destroy target player, that instant kill, sort of Damocles hanging over people's heads, really puts a target on him. And the countdown clock makes this great gameplay where it's like when it's on 4 and 5, everyone's like, "Yeah, I don't have to worry about that guy. I can let I can let that guy keep his vanilla 3/3 for a little while." And then it starts ticking down 3, 2, 1, and everyone starts looking around like, "All right, did anyone bring lightning bolt? Is anyone packing go for the throat here? What are we gonna do?" Um, but so it's not just your average Rakdos commander. Um, the countdown mechanic is really what sort of drew me to this card. I love unsets. I love Silver Border or Acorn Icon now. I guess is with Unfinity coming out this year. They're changing up how they represent like non-tournament legal play. Um, and so at the unstable pre-release, I did a few unstable drafts, had a blast. Um, Cards like Subcontract, let's like have the outside the game mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
I had one of my buddies who was basically turned all my subcontracts into thought seizes because he knew Magic well. He knew my opponent's hand. He could read a board state, so I'd just call him over. I'd be like, "Hey Billy, come take a look," and he's like, "All right, cool." Nail their best card. And then opposite that, my buddy Jim, I got called in to no, someone called me into his Kindslaver game. Like I got Kindslavered in
Okay, yup.
and just like no, he got Kindslavered in on me, that was it, and just roasted me. And I'm like, "What the heck? I thought we were friends." He's like, "Yeah, but you've won too many
Too much.
Winston drafts to let me to let me not nail you here." And I'm
Kind,
like, "All right, all
yeah.
right, fair's fair."
Kindslaver being the one where you pull in a player to act as your teammate, right?
No, it's like a one turn Mindslaver, where you get to
Oh,
control their
right.
turn. but the person has to be from outside the game.
Outside the game, so instead of you, of course. Right.
Yeah.
The one I'm thinking of is a green white card.
Yeah, better than one. That
Yes.
one I actually had in I had that like remember the green white cats equipment deck from like the Precon EDH one?
Yeah, I have Nazan still, so.
Oh yeah, okay. So I actually had better than one in that deck for a little while. Because I always feel bad when someone gets knocked out early in the commander game. It's like, they flew a little too close to the sun, got that turn 1 Soul Ring, and everyone dogpiled them. And then it's like, all right, cool, enjoy playing on your phone for the next 2 hours while we finish this commander game. So I just had the one of Silver Border Enchantment in there, so like, someone gets knocked out early, I can bring him back in, give him half my lands, etc. So at first when I saw Baron, I'm like, okay, this seems like a pretty sweet build around. I feel my favorite commanders are build around commanders. When I see people who just play commander for their color identity, it kind of makes me a little sad. I played every once in a while in like my local game store's commander night, and I sit down and one of my opponents puts down a Sliver Hive Lord, and I'm like, oh, a Slivers deck in the wild, because I love Slivers. And then he proceeds to just play a bunch of mana rocks and combo kills everybody, and I'm like, oh, that's not exciting. There's no Slivers to be had here at all. You just need a 5-color commander. And by the way, IMO, in my opinion, if you're playing a 5-color commander, you gotta play Chromat. If you don't actually need the commander, you just need the color identity. Chromat's a lock there.
But Chromat, if you wanna lay low, and Child of Alara if you're trying to send a message.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I forgot about Space Baby.
Yup, right. and Corona if you want everyone to forget about you. Or you're playing a very weird tribal deck and don't want to be a Morophon person.
Exactly, yeah. Morophon's jumped up in price a little bit. Get that Corona on the discount, and there you go.
I had a Corona deck that was a super budget deck, and it was tribal spell shapers.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember those guys from Masks Block. So it was just like every single spell shaper that was like remotely worth playing. So like so you'd have like, gives +1/+0 and fear until end of turn, or freaking Dark Ritual, but it's terrible because it doesn't actually give you any storm.
Yeah.
And it's so all those, and then I had some shrines in there and a bunch of just raise dead effects because you're discarding so many cards.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
that's quite the pile, but I love it.
Yes, it is. It was an absolute pile. It was I had the gates. I had the old gates win condition in there too, just because sometimes you actually need to do something.
Mm-hmm. So with Baron, I was a little kind of wary at first because I'm like, destroy target player, lose like instant lose. That seems kind of rough. Is that too strong for most commander tables? And then when I was at another kind of local game store commander night, I had an opponent playing mono black, just combo kill everyone on turn 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, no, this is actually a pretty reasonable card. It gives you plenty of time to react to it. And so I'm like, I'm all in. I asked my play group, I'm like, hey, do you mind if I play a couple Silver Border cards? This is the guy I want to build. I want to build Baron von Count. I took a look at it and they said, yeah, that's fine. So if you want to start kind of going in card by card here a little bit.
Sure.
So move that on over. There we are. Okay. The trick with this deck is I was trying to build a deck that could win with Baron like reliably, or at least kill with Baron reliably, but also had some action on its own. So I had to kind of find the line of, all right, I need playables, but also I need playables that have the numerals 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in as much variation as I can, which is a tough line to walk. I double checked with Maro on Twitter at one point to see if Roman numerals counted, because otherwise, if they did, all the sagas give you 1, 2, 3 right off the bat. But unfortunately, no, it has to be the numeral too. Yeah, Arabic numeral.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
I assume that you are playing the pre-Oath of the Gatewatch, Hedron Archive, and Sol Ring.
So Soul Ring, yes, the one that says so in the tapped out I have up here. I found the printings of my artifacts that I had to track down for this deck.
Mm-hmm.
The trickiest one was Worn Power Stone because I was playing back when I have some brown border Worn Power Stones from Urza's Saga, but
And
those say tap to add 2 colorless. It's all spelled out.
TWO.
Yeah, and then the newer ones are the double wingding. So
Yup.
there's like this zone in the middle of like the early commander decks where it said tap to add number 2 generic to your mana pool. So
Yup.
I'm texting all my friends. I'm like, hey, does anyone have a Worn Power Stone from C13? And they're like, what? That's extremely specific. What do you need this for? And I'm like, I'm building it for a deck.
Yeah, it looks like here on Scryfall, C14, C15, and Dual Decks Phyrexia versus the Coalition were
Mhm.
the only printings that had 2 in the gray circle.
The other one that was a specific printing I needed was there's a Tamiyo's journal, and there's a promo one that has a different flavor text than the inset one.
Yes, I see that. I see that.
And the inset one has entry 434. There's more to Avacyn's Madness. And so because of that flavor text, that printing of Tamiyo's journal has 2, 3, 4, 5 on the face of it, whereas the other one only has 2 and 5. So I had to track down a non-promo Tamiyo's journal.
Yeah, it looks like there were 5 variations that had different journal numbers, but none of them were nearly as relevant
Mhm.
as the original pack printing.
But then you also have to kind of weigh card quality in addition to numbers. Like
yeah.
when we were rebuilding this last night, Undead Liutao is a common from Shards of Alara that hits 1 through 5, but it's also a 6 mana 3/4 with Unearth, and it's like, yeah, I think I could do a little bit better. So the ones that are kind of our all stars, and real quick kind of caveat for anybody who wants to build the Baron von Count of your own. The deck building is honestly half the fun.
Oh yeah.
The deck plays pretty well, but you may be able to find some hidden gems that hit those numbers. So I would definitely recommend kind of doing your own research on this to find the stuff. But I'll give you a few freebies here that are some of our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all stars. So Chandra Torch of Defiance. This deck's a little bit more Planeswalker heavy than a lot of commander decks I've seen. It's kind of tough to keep them alive sometimes when you have 3 opponents trying to beat down. But Chandra Torch of Defiance is like the perfect Planeswalker for Baron von Count. She hits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's got 2+1s, 2 in the casting cost, -3, 4 starting loyalty. Her ultimate deals 5 damage when you play a spell. Magnificent. She's a 4-drop, so you can go Baron von Count into Chandra Torch of Defiance and immediately tick down from 5 to 4. If you're trying to race to blow someone up as fast as possible, all her abilities are relevant: destroying creatures, drawing extra cards, or dealing damage to opponents, getting mana. And if you somehow manage to ultimate her, then you're looking really good.
Yeah, I mean the ultimate is a win condition, basically. So
yeah, she ults not like super fast, but reasonably fast. You just got to keep her alive, which can be challenging if you're playing against 4 opponents. But we have a couple sweepers in here: a Blasphemous Act, Damnation, just kind of your commander staples. So it's not unheard of that she's going to be able to hang out. Ember Swallower was a dollar rare Theros block creature that also hits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can sometimes use it to kind of hate on lands or keep your opponents in check if you get out to a bit of a fast start. I definitely had a game one time where I was like, Mana Rock, Ember Swallower, Monstrosity on like turn 4 or 5, and just kind of set everyone back to the Stone Age while I had a 7/8. So like a fine card, not amazing. Largely a vanilla 4/5 for 4, but has some extra text on there. And +1/+1 counter, 2 in the mana cost, monstrosity 3, 4/5 toughness by default. So it hits all the boxes there. Nesting Dragon was one that I was actually really impressed with. Um, it's a 5 mana 5/4, so it's 3 red red. There's a number 3 for you. There's 5 and 4. And it has landfall. You get a 0/2 dragon egg. And when that creature dies, you get a 2/2 red dragon with fire breathing, red for +1/+0. So it's 1 through 5, and it's sort of has to be a little sweeper resilient. So you start cracking out these dragon eggs, and if somebody wraths or blasphemous act or chain reaction or whatever, then they all upgrade into 2/2s.
Yeah.
Good.
I put Nesting Dragon in Nira Wild Mage deck that I built a couple weeks ago, where the win condition for that is looping Glimpse of Tomorrow, because Nesting Dragon sees all of the lands you put into play with Glimpse. And so you'll make like 40 dragon eggs, and then you have Witty Roastmaster and everyone's dead.
All right. That's a pretty sweet little combo kill there.
Yeah, what's really funny is, like, you can technically beat Infinite Life if you're able to copy if you're able to copy the Glimpse once on the stack before anything resolves, because you get Dualcaster Mage and Errant Street Artist, both of which make a copy of the Glimpse that's already on the stack, and so you just infinitely put all your permanents into play and over and over again.
Okay, wow, that's pretty sick. Who's the commander for that deck?
Nira Wild Mage. So she's the one that basically once per turn you can turn whatever spell you cast into the next spell in your deck.
Okay,
I had made a mistake when I read her when I started brewing, and I thought she was just a possibility storm, like a one-off possibility storm for yourself only. So I was like, I'll just put a bunch of adventure creatures in to hit Glimpse, and then it's like, oh, it's just, and then reread it, it's like, oh, it's just the next spell in your deck. All right, we intuition, we go find Brainstorm and Glimpse of Tomorrow and Mystic Retrieval.
Glimpse of Tomorrow. Oh,
it's the one-sided warp world.
Gotcha.
Shuffle up all the permanents you own.
Yeah.
Put that many permanents into play off the top of your flip that many cards off the top of your library and put all the permanents.
Yeah, my friend was trying to convince me to play that in First Sliver, but I refused to. I figured it could go way too wrong. Once I get First Sliver out, if I'm cascading, I don't want to shuffle my permanents away.
You'll just that's weird, because what usually ends up happening with First Sliver is you just make a cascade chain down to 0. So then all of those slivers you cast that turn are still on the stack.
Yeah, but if First Sliver's on the battlefield, that's the last. Putting him in my library is the last thing I want to do.
True. You're too. But if you have enough slivers out, you'll just get it right back.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but First Sliver's a different deck.
Yes. First Sliver is a different deck. We're talking Baron von Count here.
Yes.
Sorry, just an aside, because Nesting Dragon is an extremely sweet card.
Yeah, that one was pretty sweet. A few other kind of sweet newer additions. Professor Onyx is also 1 through 5. That does some pretty powerful stuff, making all opponents sacrifice creatures. Sometimes people are in a pretty precarious board state. They don't have a ton of tokens or whatever, and that can kind of snap a few commanders, even hexproof ones.
Well, it's not just any creature either with her -3.
Yeah, greatest power.
Greatest power. That is a critical piece.
So she always hits something like relevant, maybe not the most relevant for whatever the game state is. Sometimes you'd rather hit like the whatchamacallit, Oracle of Moldiah, that your mono green player to your right is hitting their 18th land, but usually it's going to hit something dangerous at least. And then the newest one is Dance Macabre, which is I think right out of the new Forgotten Realms commander set. But that seems pretty sweet too. This one we found when we were doing our searching last night, because I realized that all the dice roll cards automatically had 1 and 2 on them. So I'm like, okay, let's see what we can find. And this one hits 1 through 5. It's 3 black. Each player sacrifices a non-token creature, roll a d20, and add the toughness of the creature you sacrifice this way. 1 through 14, return a creature card from put into a graveyard this way onto the battlefield under your control, or 15 or more, return up to 2 creatures put into graveyards this way to the battlefield. So you get at least one thing back. It can be yours, it can be the best thing anyone else sacrificed, and you maybe get 2 while also hitting 1 through 5 and disrupting your opponents. So it seemed like a pretty perfect addition there.
Pass.
Beyond that, it's pretty much just kind of the deck's a little bit of a pile. It's there's not a ton of like in-deck synergy other than everything kind of synergizes with the Baron himself.
Mm.
It's kind of trying to find cards that are relevant bodies on their own while also having some kind of interaction and helping with the having as many numbers as we can. So some new ones I'd like to try. Blade of the Oni we found, and that's 1, 2, 3, 5, while also giving you some attack triggers, helping to reconfigure onto the Baron himself to keep him a little more, a little less vulnerable. Oh, speaking of less vulnerable, Darksteel Plate, Lightning Greaves, and Swiftfoot Boots all kind of help keep the man himself from untimely fate. Nothing's like there's no silver bullet protection in Commander, but these 3 seem like a decent enough suite. Each of them have 2 numbers, although Lightning Greaves only has 1, but that's okay because it's so good. It doesn't if it's only hitting 1 number, I can accept it.
It's one of very few cards that don't.
Yeah, it's that, and then technically, Demonic Tutor only hits 1 number, but because it can find whatever number you need, it's in there. And I actually had a game where I killed somebody while Demonic Tutoring for something that had 5 on it off of Baron Von Trapp because that was the last thing I needed. I'm like, all right, play something that has like a 2-drop that had 2, play Demonic Tutor, kill you, start the chain.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the new ones that we came in, Shatterskull Charger and Kolaghan the Storm's Fury both have means to bounce themselves back to their hand while hitting a bunch of numbers on their own.
Okay.
Kolaghan the Storm's Fury is 1, 3, 4, 5 and has a dash capability, so you can play it, attack with it, and then bounce him on back while hitting somebody for 5. And Shatterskull Charger is 1, 2, 3, 4, thanks to his kicker and a plethora of +1/+1 on his text box. He's a 4/3 trample haste as well, so you can cast him on one turn, bounce him back, cast him again, keep going bringing that chain down. As long as you've ticked down the Baron once, then Shatterskull Charger could get the rest of the way all by himself. I mean, over the course of 4 turns, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. We've got one other uncard in here, Blast from the Past, which if I can go on a soapbox a little bit here real quick. Blast from the Past is a card that needs a black border like equivalent reprinting. They did it with Baron Glory and the Cheese Stands Alone.
Yep.
Basically an exact reprinting, text word for word with a black border and a different name. Blast from the Past just has a bunch of mechanics all thrown together, but from a power level perspective, this would be it's not a particularly strong card. I mean, after Modern Horizons 2, what that did to like regular constructed, no one's gonna be playing Blast from the Past when you can play Ragavan. So it's not like it's super busted or anything. I mean, heck, but like the base level for it is if you're playing it in a pretty heavy red deck, is 1 in a red to cycle, cast it for red. So 1 red to deal 2 damage and draw a card. Like that's not insane. And then yeah, you can go if you get infinite mana, you can just combo kill it with buyback and deal damage. But you could already do that with
things.
Yeah, a whole bunch. If you've got infinite mana, you're not at a shortage of ways to kill people.
Blast from the Past just looks like a card that they left off the site.
Yeah, totally reasonable. We need a black border reprinting of it, so you can just run this in your mono red commander deck and have a good time. There's the only Cascade spell I actually found that I wanted in the deck was Bituminous Blast. Cascade functions pretty well with Baron von Count. If you have him on either 3 or 4, you can tick his counter down before the Cascade trigger hits, so you can try to double dip there. But the the ledge for black red Cascade spell quality falls off an absolute cliff after Bituminous Blast. At least as far as the Baron's concerned.
Oh, Demonic Dread, I guess.
No, it's like
I don't even know available in black Cascade.
there's Throes of Chaos, I think. The one with 3 traits.
That's a fun one.
But it only has 3 on its face, so we opted to cut it, although that's one of those kind of maybe gets in also rans here.
Yeah, it looks like there's Meteoric Mace from Commander Legends, but that just has 4 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, there really isn't. Well, Aurora Phoenix has a 5/4/3, but you have to Cascade to get it to come back.
Yeah, and if you're not playing, if your only Cascade is Bituminous
Blast, yeah, it's just like, I'll cast it once and maybe get lucky.
Exactly. Yeah, from here, a few new additions: Ill-Tempered Loner and Brash Taunter. My buddy Jim, who has helped me put this deck together, really likes the Stuffy Doll kind of effects. And Brash Taunter and Ill-Tempered Loner each hit. Ill-Tempered Loner hits 4 numbers. Brash Taunter hits 3. And kind of give us alt win cons with just dirting people out with Blasphemous Act. Especially if you manage to flip the Loner. You know, it doesn't seem super likely in Commander, but I guess you can do it on yours. Just go ahead and pass. And now all your team has the Stuffy Doll functionality, where if you take damage, you can hit them.
Whenever a permanent you control is all pack.
Mm-hmm.
That's your opponents. You're just gonna be like, okay, I guess I'm gonna Gutshot Ponder.
Yeah. There were a few adventure cards that looked like they'd be pretty sweet. Bone Crusher Giant, kind of the poster boy for that one.
Oh yeah,
with
Bone
Stomp
Crusher is insane.
Yeah, Stomp gives you 1 and 2. Bone Crusher Giant gives you 4 and 3. 2, 3, 4. But then again, kind of like with Cascade, just the quality of card for black and red adventure creatures really kind of took a nosedive. I mean, especially as far as the Baron's concerned, that have multiple numbers on them. After Bone Crusher Giant, in an earlier build of this, I had a lot more morph creatures going on because all morphs give you 2 and 3 for free. So it's pretty easy to hit your other numbers with that going on. But the downside is you only get those triggers if you cast it face up. And a lot of morphs kind of benefit from being cast face down then flipped. So Bane of the Living is there as a pretty embarrassing random 4/3, but can also sort of serve as a wrath. So it's flexible enough where I can kind of pull double duty. And that's kind of what I was aiming for here, like a lot of flexibility. So it's like, okay, it can be useful in this situation, it can be useful in this situation. It can also flip the Baron. I do have Dwarven Blastminer in here because I'm a big jerk, and repeatedly stone raining my opponent's non-basics does seem like something I would want to do.
I once won a game by only casting Dwarven Miner in
it. Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. Just like, oh, hey, you missed a land drop. That's rough, buddy. Well, I'm going to blow up that Gaze Cradle, or I'm going to blow up that dual land you have. And it's like, oh no, I'm ruined.
Yeah, because like what happened was I dropped Dwarven Miner. Next guy just like plays Lance Passes. The next guy plays Azorius Chancery. And I look at him, and like he's one of those players that tries to do as much BS as possible, and is okay with just letting it fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked at it and I'm like, "Are you really this stupid?" And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Activate Dwarven Miner."
That's brutal.
Yo,
I mean, that person did play a bounce land into an active Dwarven Blastminer, so I suppose they kind of got what was coming to him.
Yeah, he was playing Derevi, so like this was the correct choice regardless of it being turn 2 or turn 7. But like, I'm like, we all know how your deck plays. I would be stupid not to do this.
One card that just got added that I'm excited to see how it plays out is a Vengeful Ancestor. It's off one of the newer commander decks, one of the Baldur's Gate ones.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like they're leaning a lot more into Goad now as a way to kind of just keep commander games moving, which I'm 100% on board with. I actually like commander games to end after about an hour to an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Those commander nights where you get one game in because it takes 4 hours are just not that exciting for me. So being able to goad creatures, keep things attacking, keep damage happening while hitting 4 numbers, I was like, all right, kind of a shoe in there. On a similar vein, Soren Markov, just saying, hey, you're at 10 to somebody who just gained infinite life or is sitting comfortably at 40 behind their pillow fort, is now like, oh no, I'm in danger. That functionality is really good. I don't think I've ever gotten up to his Mindslaver, but that's actually that's a pretty scary ability too, and he ults pretty fast.
Oh yeah, it's pretty fast if you don't set somebody to 10.
True. So you kind of have 2 angles of attack there, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
And then my one of enchantment, my one of fun of Sunbird's Invocation.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes.
Is super powerful. Games I've won with Sunbird's Invocation off triggering Baron are kind of the Baron win was incidental. Like just being able to make all your spells double spell is pretty bananas, and if you stack your triggers right, you can hit Baron twice.
Oh.
A couple things to note: proliferating onto Baron von Count doesn't actually do anything, according to Morrow.
Yep.
It seems like it would, but I guess it's more fun if it doesn't. It's kind of against the spirit of him. Although I would like to, trigger that final trigger and then like bam, 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 just blow up the whole table. I guess you could do it with like Rings of Brighthearth or whatever.
Strionic Resonator would do it, yes.
Yeah, Strionic Resonator. That's a angle I didn't opt to for this one. I didn't get a ruling on it, but my play group all kind of decided where if you have him set to like 4, and then you cast 2 spells with 4 in them, he only gets the one. Excuse me, he only gets the 1 move down. The wording's a little ambiguous, but that sort of was the. I feel more in the spirit of the card.
Yeah, I would treat that as an intervening if clause. So you'd cast it. If you cast held priority cast again, it would be like, okay, it doesn't have the indicated if so, then do the thing, and so then the first time it would trigger the first trigger that resolves, it moves it over, and the second one it doesn't match anymore.
Yes, that's kind of what we decided to, and in a fun way, Silver Border is a little bit like Magic the way Garfield intended, where there's some of these like, okay, everyone at the table, let's figure out how this interaction works. Because it's a little bit wild. I mean, early days, the Magic Wild West, where we didn't have necessarily like a lot of stuff dialed in and so codified. You had to sort of figure out at your table, how does Rushing River work? Things like that. So Silver Border does have a bit of that fun aspect to it. So according to my notes here, we're kind of looking at some missed the cut future construction or considerations there. What didn't quite get in, the morph package largely got dropped. An earlier build, like I said, had a ton of morph, and I think you could make a pretty cool like Baron von Count morph list, but it would be probably a little bit suboptimal there. One thing I thought of just today is a few of the like gains indestructible, a few more ways to protect the Baron while keeping him on the battlefield. There's a spell from Amonkhet, which is like 1 in a black, target creature gains indestructible until end of turn, and it cycles for 2. It's also an instant speed with 1 and 2 on it, so you can kind of set up a surprise kill on somebody who thinks they have 1 more turn. when they actually don't.
Without weakness.
Yeah, that's it.
1 and a black, target creature you control gains indestructible.
Mhm.
Yup.
There's one. There's one from Kaladesh, which is also hits 1 and 2. It's 2 and a black. Target creature is indestructible. Make a 1/1 servo. Um, Again, I don't remember the name unfortunately, but
Renegade's Getaway.
that's it.
And it targets any permanent too, not just creatures.
Hey, that's actually not bad.
Yes.
Might be worth to protect your Sunbird's Evocation from like a Bane of Progress or something.
Or Lightning Greaves.
Yeah, totally. So that's an aspect. I think having a few of those effects in here would probably be good, especially because instant speed ways to trigger number 1, especially, are kind of at a premium. That way, you don't have to worry about like getting back to your turn before axing one of your opponents there.
Warping Whale. Warping Whale.
Oh, that's the colorless one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
+3/-3, 1 and a colorless.
Yeah, totally. We do have it's 1, 2. That's 2, 3, 4. Strangling Soot. Again, flashback, another avenue that didn't quite have as much gift, as many gifts for the deck as I thought it would.
Yeah.
But there could be some options if you want to go a little bit more. Any of the transform cards, the transform creatures anyway, have the power and toughness for their flip side on their front.
Oh.
So if you can go a little more transform centric, and that's actually a place where Black Red does have some good stuff. If you want to kind of dig into it, but the deck is a little creature heavy, a little planeswalker heavy, because that's where most of your numbers are. There's not a ton of spells that have, or non-creature, non-land spells that have just a bunch of numbers on them. Of note, we don't have Staff of Domination in here, because 5 mana to draw a card, like, yeah, I guess sometimes, but this is not really like a big mana combo deck. And Staff of Domination definitely seems like it's more at home in a go infinite and pop off kind of list, more so than count it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's definitely and which you are not going for in this deck, obviously.
No, this deck is pretty fair as commander decks go. It can feel bad if you get counted down on and get blown up, but like from experience, it usually takes 2 to 3 turns to count Baron von Count down. And if you can't deal with the 3/3 with no with no inherent protection in commander in 3 turns, like, it's kind of on you. you sort of had that one coming.
Well, and also you just don't have to be the biggest threat in that situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like if you're just kind of doing a few things and not a whole lot, they're not going to send the Baron after you.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is that Commander Vengeance factor where, well, you disenchanted my Soul Ring 2 games ago, so taste it.
Yeah. Hey, that's a Silver Border effect. Bringing in actions from other games into the current game.
Oh, so it's on theme. Perfect.
Yes, exactly. Uncards allow you to play with the results of taking into consideration the results or effects of games that you are not currently participating in.
One of my all-time favorite Magic stories. A quick tangent here, if you allow me.
Go for it.
It was just like it was like living room floor. We didn't have a table in our living room at the time, so we're all just like, me and 2 buddies were on the floor, just playing cards, and I was clearly in the best position. Like, I was advantage bar was way in my favor. I was threatening to win, and my buddy Joe attacked my friend Joel. Like, he had one reasonable attack against me to kind of knock me down or like to kill a thing and put me in a worse position, and he dogpiles on my friend Joel. And Joel's like, why? And he's like, you attacked me on turn 2. And that was like, it's like turn 12 now. That is completely irrelevant, but he just had this like burning vengeance in his heart, ready to go.
Reminds me, I had a Kingdoms game, and we were playing with a bunch of custom roles, and I got the
Mhm.
Vindictive, which is you win the game by having whatever player dealt you damage or milled you or discarded you cards first. And
Okay.
so I was just like, I'm gonna play Dragonlord Oji try Voltron because this is gonna be funny. And so like somebody plays like an Impact Tremors or something, and I'm just like sitting there not doing much with Ojitai, and then it's like, okay, I untap, I throw like 3 auras on him, get him like a 11-10 double striker, and I just go bang. It's like you're out of the game, and he's like, yeah, I know, I figured that was what was going on, and I'm like, yeah, obviously, like while the rest of the game is still going on, and then the next turn I untap and play Dismiss into Dream.
Oh, which one's that?
It's 6 in a blue, and it says creatures your opponents control are illusions in addition to their other types, and have whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. So basically, like everybody else was just playing with a Dismiss into Dream emblem sitting on the table that affected all of them. And I was just like, well, I won, so I'm just gonna stand around doing nothing now and letting you guys do whatever you want.
Making this miserable situation happen.
Yeah, and then somebody flipped Kithian into Gideon Battleforged, and his +2 is untap target creature and it gains indestructible until your next turn.
Yeah.
So she had like Edict every turn, targeted Edict every turn.
Oh man, if you had like Dismiss in a Dream and then like an Encore creature from Tempest that just like pays 0 to redirect, start just popping their board off there. Oof.
Yeah, Dismiss into Dream and Willbreaker, which is the whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes the target of a spell or ability you control, gain control of that creature.
Okay, yeah. Uh-huh.
That's what happens if somebody plays a Meddling Mage on Ojitai, is I just get one of those cards out and I just destroy the board.
You know, I never actually considered Meddling Mage and Commander, but that's pretty mean. Mean in a good way, but pretty mean nonetheless.
Like
just like
on the one hand, it's like, you know, it's like really obnoxious when you name somebody as like Voltron Commander. But what's really mean is when you name like Shadowborn Apostle. And your opponent's like, I have 7 blanks now!
if they're kind of like, well, I need something for Commander Night, but I don't really want a deck build, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab any number of the play any number cards. Let's go. Throw 60 rats into a deck with 39 swamps.
Then you just discard the hand size and cast. Well, no, you can't cast. But yes. Any other fun stories?
Well, I did bring this to like my store's Commander Night after I had it finished because I was just like so jonesing to play it.
Oh, of course.
And the store owners let me like the judge is like, hey, you know, we're making an exception for the silver border card. He's cool to play. And I had a blast. Everyone seemed to be having fun with it. I had one game where Baron von Count was running away with it. I had Sunburn's Invocation, and like no one was able to deal with him. I managed to kill 2 players with the Baron von Count activations, and apparently somebody was like so bummed out by the interaction they wrote like a negative review for the stores on like Yelp or something. And the next time I went in, the store manager came over to me and he's like, hey, you know, I got to ask you not to bring that commander to play anymore. Someone got mad about it and wrote a negative review on the commander forums or something. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, sure. I had a fun time. It seemed like everyone else was having fun. I didn't mean to ruin someone's night, but like there seemed to be way more offensive ways to ruin someone's commander night. I'm looking at you, Hull Breacher. Then then a 3-turn countdown 3/3 that kills people, but you know what? Hey, everyone has fun in their own different ways, so I'm sorry I ruined that person's commander evening with my jank combo kill. But putting this list together makes me want to rebuild Baron von Count. I kind of took him apart to build Anya Falconwrath because I'm a big sucker for madness.
That's justifiable.
But that deck, while I like it, does a lot of, to quote Cameron from Loading Ready Run, powerful nothing. I'm like, I'm cycling cards and I'm drawing and I'm untapping my commander and I'm casting madness spells. And I spent like 6 mana and 5 minutes and really didn't change the board all that much.
Yeah.
I got a slight discount on a 4/4. But you really feel like you're doing stuff in that one.
Yeah, that and Prosper. Prosper is almost too tedious to be minor soapbox moment there.
Yeah. Oh,
But,
Prosper Tomebound?
yeah.
Okay, what's this idea?
Whenever you cast a spell from exile, create a treasure token at the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of your library, you can play it until you're. And so you just play you play every single one of those red impulsive draw effects.
Mm-hmm.
And like you eventually can like build up the win condition is usually either you storm off and kill with like just I'm not even sure what the normal kill condition is supposed to be, because the other kill condition is you end up making millions and millions of treasures, and then you have Disciple of the Vault and or Reckless Fireweaver that do the same, and other cards that do the similar effect that care about artifacts entering or leaving.
Yeah, for sure.
You know. And so, like, if you don't get any of those kill conditions out, your deck is just like going through all these steps, and like your turn takes 7 minutes, and you're done. And but I mean, it is fun. It is interesting to see what people try to do with that. I'm not gonna yuck somebody's yum, but I think in any case, in all situations, discretion and reading the room.
Yeah, I like to see people's decks go off, and if your deck has like a wild 5-minute turn where you draw half your deck and get to kill 2 people, like I'm generally happy for you. But if that's every turn, and if you're also not ending the game reasonably, like if you got your 5-minute Stormloft kill, I've had a Niv Mizzet Parun deck one time that I combo killed with 1,000-Year Storm and Time Spiral. And like it just
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I got Storm up to like 6 and cast Time Spiral. They did bounce Niv in response, so now I'm like, okay, I'm casting spells every iteration, gaining mana and stuff, and it was like, okay, this is cool. This was a fun turn. This is like the last turn of the game, basically. But if you're just like, okay, let me
set up for next turn.
Let me set up for next turn. Oh wait, next turn. Something's changed. I'm not ready. Okay, and then another 5 minutes to spin my wheels here. It's like, all right, come on, we're all here to play games.
Yeah, I call it the Sensei's Divining Top effect, because you're drawing a lot of attention to yourself, but you're not actually changing the board state or the of the game. Yeah, Sensei's Divining Top is a notorious card. Back when I started playing Commander in around 2013, there was just so much of that. In response, I spin top. In response, I spin top. And it's like, just use your mana to do something useful. Stop pretending that this horrible atrocity is powerful.
Yeah, the function of top compared to the time it takes is just not worth it. I know some playgroups just ban top the way that some playgroups ban Sol Ring, and in both cases, I'm totally on board with it. Sol Ring, it's fine, but it's like the strongest rock by a mile, and it's like one of those auto includes.
Well, it's also the only strong rock that's like reasonably priced. Like the next most powerful rock that is less than $30 would probably either Mind Stone or Stone. And yeah, no, I that's honestly an interesting challenge for talking about deck building challenges like we were before. is putting some of those effects in. I personally run Soul Ring in about half my decks because there's a lot of decks that I either like I only need colored mana, or like because like Soul Ring in my Zimone deck slows the deck down. Because all I'm really trying to do is put as many lands into play as possible. I don't need to.
No, it totally makes sense.
Like if I spend if I spend turn 1 to cast my Soul Ring, if I don't have exactly Thought Vessel in my hand to follow it up on the next turn, I'm not getting any use out of it. Always casting on turn 2.
Yeah.
So, you know, I like, and I also just like to personally like to diversify my deck lists. Because like I noticed it with Panharmonicon, because like Panharmonicon is my jam, and I could stick Panharmonicon in 3/4 of my decks and it would be great. But I'm like, I don't want to buy 30 Panharmonicons, and 2, like then all my decks do the same thing, and I don't want that.
Right.
So
yeah, the only deck I can think of that springs to mind where I didn't run Soul Ring, mostly due to peer pressure, just like, you know, you got to keep up the table, was I had a Nikia the Old Ways deck that was 98 creatures. And then the one non-creature was, I can't remember, it's like an 8-mana green spell that lets you like flip cards to the top of your library until you hit a
Genesis Wave. Or no, Primal Surge.
Primal Surge, yeah.
Yes.
So I basically had one Primal Surge in there, where I could like tap all my double mana, sacrifice my commander, cast Primal Surge, flip my whole deck on the table, and just kill everybody. But except for that one, which was another fun deck building challenge in its own right. It's like, okay, only creatures. What
only
if we
creatures?
Go. But yeah, the fun like commander deck build with restrictions or like unique bits to them, I find really fun. That's why I had so much fun with Baron von Count, and why it's my favorite deck.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a blast.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And so if people want to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at Die by the Dice. If you are into magical cards of a more digital nature, they can find me on Twitch, also at Die by the Dice, Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific, where I'm playing Arena usually, unless Vintage Cube is out. And I stream on same channel, Die by the Dice, on Sundays and Wednesdays, where we play non-Magic games. We're playing through Crosscode right now, kind of an action RPG bit where we're just kind of going end to end on it. It's my first playthrough, and I'm having a blast. So that's 6 p.m. Pacific tonight, if you want to check out that action.
All right, well, thank you for all that, and we'll see you next time on My Favorite Deck, talking about decks and the people that love them. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.